I'll make sure I'm live. Okay, I'm live. Awesome. Hey, everybody. It's Friday, September 5th, 2025. And I'm live here at the Cates Command Center in Lakeland, Florida. And it's going to be a hell of a show today. There's three main things that happened in the last 3 days that I want to talk about in this show. And let's just go with the oldest one first. 3 days ago, um, we started having a real war on drugs. Okay, I think that's important, and we need to discuss that a little bit. I know everybody wants to get into the Epstein victim press conference in D.C. where old Gloria Allred showed up, and they want to talk about Bobby Kennedy getting yelled at by all those Luciferians. Okay, in our U.S. Congress. Well, we've got 2 hours here, okay? We'll get to that. I just want to start with the one from, may have been 4 days ago, 4 days ago, when a boat from the Tren de Aragua, I hope I'm saying that right, the TVA guys were trying to bring more of those drugs into this country that have killed well over 350,000 Americans since the year 2000. I know because I researched this and I looked at multiple sources, and all the different sources placed the number of Americans who have died from illegal opioids smuggled into this country. It's between 350,000 and 370,000, somewhere in there. Okay. And we have never had a real war on drugs in this country. This was one of the things during the Great Awakening, as we all drink more coffee and we become more dangerous with our coffee. Because the more coffee we drink, the more we wake up. And the more we wake up, we go back and we look again at all this stuff they've been programming us to believe all this time. So I'm taking sips of my coffee a while back. See, I'd already figured out the war on terror. I figured that out a long time ago, right? That the war on terror wasn't real. It's the CIA out there creating first world paramilitary forces on the sly at terrorist camps in foreign countries. We're paying for all of this, okay? And then it's called sheep dipping in intelligence parlance. You take a first world paramilitary force made up of your armed and intelligence agency trained people, and you disguise them as being something they're not, communist subversives. You disguise them as Islamic radicals, and you send them out there to engage in a series of attacks where you kill more innocent people you kill, the better. And the more you destabilize the region, the more they see the two different wings of the globalist cult or the Luciferian cult. The two different wings play off of each other. The IIC, the International Intelligence Conglomerate, creates these paramilitary forces, sends them out there to do attacks, destabilize a region, destabilize it, cause chaos and destruction on a massive scale. And then the MIC, the IMIC, the International Military Conglomerate, gets to say, oh, look, destabilization. We need to get our politicians to spend a couple $100 billion and send our military assets in there on our defense contractors, and we're going to stabilize that region back. And we're gonna end the chaos, and we're gonna end the violence, and we're gonna bring peace. And they get to do a decade of profit, containing the threat. They never really bring any peace. I hope you all figured that out by now. They just contain the threat and keep the money flowing. So yeah, a lot of people figured out the war on terror a long time ago. The war on drugs, well, that's different. That's a different story. The war on terror, oh well, that's different. The war on drugs. See, people believe that since the days of Ronald Reagan, when the CIA was bringing all these drugs in here and doing all the things, the rest that they've been doing. We'll be getting into the vaccine schedule and why it's so very important to our Luciferian class that as many American infants, as many precious American children as possible get pumped full of about between 70 and 90 toxic shots as early in their development as possible. Okay, we'll be getting into that. But the war on drugs, man, while the CIA, all these intelligence conglomerates were taking out the low-level drug dealers and basically creating the pipelines and the networks that became the modern-day drug smuggling networks. And they don't just smuggle drugs over these same networks and pipelines. They smuggle human beings, children. They do a lot of stuff with the pipelines. But within the 70s and 80s, they were setting a lot of this up. They were moving from the Golden Triangle up there in the Middle East. They began using South America countries with the cocaine. Okay. Remember how that was dismissed as a conspiracy theory. Our CIA is not involved in drug running, That was a wild thing that was created by, Hollywood lefty types like Steven Seagal making that movie Above the Law. If you've ever watched it, what was the plot of that film? Okay, I know a lot of people don't like Steven Seagal for various reasons, various good reasons. But go back and watch that film Above the Law. What were they trying to tell you? Okay, whoever wrote that script, the CIA is involved in drug running. The CIA is involved in genocide in Central America. They're killing people. They're starting conflicts. They're making money off the conflicts and the drug running. They were doing this back in Vietnam, by the way. Remember how the movie opened? They were doing that back in Vietnam. And then this innocent, police officer discovers a CIA plot to assassinate a senator that involves drug running. There's still same CIA shithead that was doing this back in Vietnam. It's now operating in Chicago. Okay, yeah. And getting ready to assassinate a senator. And this brave cop, Nico Tuscany, gets in there and messes up their little plot and kills the CIA guy by very dramatically breaking his neck at the end of the movie. But what were they telling you? Okay, that the CIA was doing, it was in the drugs. The drugs were coming in here because the CIA is doing, they're not trying to stop any of this. They're the ones facilitating it because they're profiting off of it. And they're using the profit they get from that for all kinds of nefarious activities. You were being told this, okay. I wonder how they got that movie made. They're shining a little, people, that's dismissed that. Oh, that's just made by a bunch of crazy leftists. Who cares what they think? It's like The Matrix. You can ignore that because it was made by two Luciferian trans cross-dressers. Okay. But we've never had a real war on drugs in this country. It was all fake. It was all for show. You study the scale of the amount of the drugs that were coming into this country, and you would realize that all you're ever seeing, all they tried out a couple times a year, this massive bust in Philadelphia, this massive bust down here in Texas, they're not even intercepting a full 3 or 4% of this stuff. As we go back and look, and we wake up, we drink our coffee, and we wake up somewhere, and we go back and look at the war on drugs that we grew up with, we knew it wasn't real. Something that a lot of people knew was saying, this is bullshit. There's no war on drugs. Look how much of this shit still gets in here. There's no war on drugs. It's all fake. And all of these big butts they announced in the fake news, and they celebrate each other, and they give each other medals, and they give each other commendations, and they're pats on the back. It's all for show, because they're not even getting a full 3% of all this crap that's being sent in here. And surprise, I think you're going to see this in the next couple of months. The drug traffic has been severely curtailed. You see, they stopped using boats to smuggle this shit in here in the mid-90s. They didn't have to use boats any longer. They had such control. They moved to land corridors because the people in our government who were compromised and who were involved in all of this trafficking network, taking money to facilitate human and drug and arms and all the other exotic shit they're smuggling in here or out of here. A pipeline goes both ways, right? You have no idea. A lot of people don't even focus on what they're smuggling out of our country. Okay. But a trafficking network has two different directions. So they've been doing this for a long time now. People in our government helped set this up. They've been protecting it, shielding it. And they do I call them trophy busts. They do a trophy bust every now and then. Oh, look, we caught 50,000 pounds of whatever. We caught 20 pounds of fentanyl in this one car. And they all celebrate what a fantastic job they're doing protecting the border. While 97% of the drugs, and 80% of the human trafficking just goes right on, continues right on. And most people have woken up to the fact that the U.S. government, I've been talking about this recently, the U.S. government is the world's largest criminal network. It's the largest criminal mafia. It has been a long time. Trump is reforming it, okay, but don't kid yourself about what the U.S. government was. It was the world's largest drug smuggler, the world's largest human trafficker was the United States government. Because for over 100 years now, these Luciferians, it's not the best way to say this, they spent a lot of time carefully positioning themselves to take over our government from the inside. Beginning in the 1880s, they began plotting and planning and people were fantastically wealthy, and they began putting things into motion. And it goes into the 1900s, 1910s. They're making a lot of inroads into the U.S. government. In 1913 is when they sprang the trap. That's when they sprung the trap. They pulled the trigger in 1913, and that's when they took out whatever constitutional framework we had left in our government. They took that out and they replaced it with something else, and that something else has been running our U.S. government for 100 years now. It's a secret system. It's a shadow government. It's a hidden thing. They leave a facade like we have a constitutional government. We have three co-equal branches of the government: judicial, legislative, executive. But it's a lie. And the one thing that's going to expose these people, of course, is an outsider after getting in there and beginning to force these damn three separate branches to act like they are three separate branches, and force them into revealing that our government is not constitutional, and it hasn't been constitutional for a long time. And that's what Donald Trump's been doing, and he's been doing a brilliant job of it. And one reason we needed to get ourselves into a position to launch a real war on drugs, this didn't happen overnight. It took Trump and Pete Hegseth. Both Trump had to get Pete Hegseth past a Department of Defense and all of the bought-off politicians in our Congress who are We have a system in DC that is so unbelievably corrupt. That's not just in DC, it's at the Pentagon. The Pentagon, much of our defense industry and some key places in our military, yes, are utterly compromised. They're utterly compromised and part of this criminal network. They're part of this criminal activity. But before Trump and Pete Hegseth could get anywhere and launching a real war on drugs now, they had to do some months of careful preparation because, and this is going to sound controversial when I tell you this, okay, our military has been deliberately neutered for many years now. The only teeth it has, the only security or military capability it was allowed to keep was the abilities that the Luciferian cult could use to protect its criminal networks. That's it. That's all they were left. They weren't left to do engage in any real combat in a foreign theater in a war. All that was stripped out under Obama. And Trump began reconstituting it. And of course, he had to leave, and Biden came in. And once Biden was in there, they went right back to stripping away all the military capabilities and playing up all the trans shit. So Trump got Pete Hegseth in there. I believe it was late March, maybe April. I don't. It's, a lot of stuff has gone on. I don't really remember what the exact time it was that Pete Hegseth finally got past the gatekeepers of the Luciferian cult who were determined not to stop him because they knew the problems this guy was going to present. Because the first thing that Trump made it very clear that Pete Hegseth was going to do was that Pete was going to begin reconstituting our military to actually blow shit up and break it. And not just in defense of our U.S. government's criminal human and drug smuggling networks around the world. Okay, no. They knew what Trump and Pete were going to do. They were going to start destroying these same drug networks and human smuggling networks. It may have seemed like such a small thing. But do you remember about 5 months ago when there was a big furor over the fact that Trump and Pete Hegseth militarized our land border? Do you remember that? This is very concerning. This is bad. This is terrible. Pete Hegseth has closed the border, put the military on the border, and they're now guarding that land corridor from Florida all the way to the tip of California, especially that main corridor they were using in Texas. He shut that down. He made it very clear, you get caught on this strip of land, we will arrest you. This is militarized land now. If you are on that land without authorization, you're going to automatically be subject to arrest. And, all the people in the media, this is very concerning. This is very bad. Well, it was bad for some people, yes. Because what that means is there's 3 ways you can smuggle something into a country: land, air, sea. Trump and Pete shut down the land corridors 5 months ago. That was an amazing time. At the same time, they're shutting down the looting of our treasury. They're not getting any money from our treasury now. They disposed USAID. They shut down a lot of the foreign aid going overseas, except to that one country, where they're not ready to take that on yet. Because about 80% of our Congress is compromised by that one country. They shut down most of the revenue that they've been generating by stealing out of our treasury. She shut that down. But they still have the drug revenues. They still have all the revenues they're sharing with the criminal cartels that they created and that they're business partners with. Yes, they're still reaping the profits from the human trafficking and the drug smuggling until Pete put a massive dent in the drug traffic by closing down the land corridor. Now they can't, it's very high risk now to try to take a truck loaded with drugs or even human beings to try to smuggle them in the border by land. It's not cost effective. It's just not cost effective anymore, okay? Because they shut that down. The military did that. Now, it took them about 3 months. Let's say, once you got in there in late March, early April, 2.5 months to get the military to that kind of footing. We're putting them on the border, the land border. We're going to close that down. They were able to do that fairly quickly. This next step, where they're going to literally start blowing the shit out of all of these boats that they're now using, because they moved back to the boats. Okay, they're going to start blowing up these boats trying to get in here because they can't use the land corridor anymore. Are now in a position they can start showing you what they're doing. That was the next step. You shut down the land corridor. Now, that forces them to move to the sea. They all try to get it in by sea. There's a third dimension here, the air. And I'm probably going to be doing a show soon with my good friend, Air Force Colonel, 20 years in the Air Force, in some high-ranking positions. My friend, Air Force Colonel Roxanne Towner-Watkins, to discuss how the air has been shut down too, but they don't advertise this, okay? For a long time, they allowed all kinds of undesignated, well, the better word, suspicious traffic, air traffic coming into our country from the south, I'll put it that way, or from the sea over the Caribbean. They now NORAD tracks everything, but nobody was taking any real action to intercept any of the suspicious flights. Okay. Y'all talk about a silent war, talk about how silent. You don't see a lot of this stuff. A lot of it happens very quietly. Okay. You're not allowed to see most of this. They do some things when you can see it, but a lot of what's been happening in our country as Trump robs the Luciferian cult of its control and begins shutting down the criminal networks that they've been also carefully constructing and maintaining for 100 years now. If you shut that down, you just kind of have to accept most of this is being done out of sight when you can't see it. Sorry, but it's true. And the air got shut down. At the same time, the land corridor got shut down, the air corridor got shut down. So, what's an enterprising, desperate criminal cartel gonna have to do? I mean, a criminal cartel created by our CIA many years ago. Well, a criminal gang like MS-13 or Trandagua, created by the international intelligence conglomerate and disguised as a criminal gang. Okay, what are you gonna do? Because your CIA masters, the people who created you and armed you and fund you for a purpose, and that purpose is for you to run the networks for them, the smuggling networks. And you can't use the land corridor anymore, and you can't use the air corridor anymore. Nothing's getting through. They're shutting all that down. What are you supposed to do? Just give up? Well, no. You go back to using boats. You go back to the boats. So they went back to the boats. They've gone back to the boats recently. But here's the problem with that. As these 11 guys found out the hard way the other day. It's far easier to detect boat traffic and intercept it than it is trucks in the middle of nowhere on the U.S. border trying to come across the border. Even with our troops there, I'm not saying they completely shut all of this down, all 100% of it. There's still some smuggling that goes on, but it's nothing like it was. Nothing like it was. It's not 97% getting through. Maybe it's more like 13%. And that is not cost effective for the cartels and the people who create the cartels and who profit share with the cartels they created. Okay. I'll put it that way. But when you go back to using boats with the satellite technology we have now that they didn't have in the 90s, with the military space force stuff going on behind the scenes, Space Command, Space Force stuff, especially after we get the Rocket City up and running in Huntsville, Alabama. It's already very hard to sneak a boat out of international waters into the U.S. Territory and land it and offload it. Because the detection technology that they have now is light years beyond anything we had in the 1990s. The last time they were, we all know about the cigarette boats and the smuggling that was going on back then. We all watched Miami Vice, But the game changed and they abandoned the boats. They were able just to use, it's cheaper just to use trucks over the land corridor. So that's what they were doing for the last 25 years or so. But now they're being forced to go back to the boats. They're waking up to the fact that, an example was made out of those guys. And so people say, you can't do that. You can't blow up drug dealers. You have to go arrest them. You have to give them a warning and try to arrest them. Listen, this is a war. A war has been waged on our country for years, decades. They're deliberately poisoning us. They're deliberately killing us. The same nefarious forces out there that created these criminal gangs that are running these criminal smuggling networks to bring literal poison into our country that has killed more than 350,000 Americans in the last 20 years. They're the same ones, the same forces behind that are the ones that are making sure the DAs and the mayors of our blue cities and the governors of our blue states will pursue insane policies that will literally kill their own citizens and harm the public safety. Okay? It's the same people running all of this. We'll smuggle thousands and thousands of tons of drugs into America every year. And we'll kill 50, 60,000 Americans a year that way. And that's not really a cost-effective way to kill people, though. I hope you don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It's the profit they get from this. It's the profit. Yeah, as an ancillary benefit, we kill it's up to 70,000 a year, I think now. We kill about 70,000 Americans, but that's not the main thing for them. It's the money that they make. And since they had most of their other revenue streams have been shut down by this current administration, the drug revenue and the human trafficking revenue becomes very important to these people. When you have 4 or 5 revenue streams, it doesn't matter if you lose one of them. But if you have, let's say, 6 revenue streams and 4 of them have been shut down, and you've been cut off from 4 of those revenue streams, and you've only got 2 left. The 2 that you have left become very important to you. it becomes important to you to maintain them. And then it's what if you lose one of them? Shit, you had 6, now you've lost 5 of them. You've only got one revenue stream left. These people are getting desperate. They have an agenda. And a big part of that agenda is maintaining their criminal networks beneath the facade of our Constitution or U.S. government. They spent 100 years hollowing out our real government and replacing it with a criminal shadow government, a shadow mafia. Now, Trump has flipped the tables on them. You got to understand. He's doing the same hollowing out thing. You're only seeing some of this on the surface. A lot of this is going on where you can't see it. Can't see it. He's hollowing out the criminal infrastructure they spent 100 years building and using and strengthening. He's whipping the foundation out. He's punching holes in the wall. He's renovating things. And they can't stop. They're trying as hard as they can to stop him. All the lawmakers shrieking up there in D.C. for Trump and Bobby to stop what they're doing. We'll be getting to Bobby's hearing, in about 20 minutes. I think. I'm trying to stick to a schedule. Make sure I discuss all 3 things during this broadcast. Shrieking for Trump and Bobby and Pete, all these people. Stop what you are doing. And they can't really say why they're in a panic. We spent 100 years building this criminal infrastructure. 100 years of our hard work, our families' work. A lot of these rich families, the drunken mafia princess from Baltimore. I mean, you want to go down a rabbit hole? You study some of these prominent families, the Gettys, the Newsoms, the Browns, just in California. You go back 100 years and study all of that. Okay, we spent 100 years building this criminal network, and you're destroying it. Somebody stop him. Our profits are going through the floor. Cut up all our money from the treasury. That drug money is more important to us than ever. Stop! Somebody stop him! And now he's blowing up their boats. You know what that tells me? Quietly, they've been positioning things for the last 7 months to get preparing to do this. Then Bondi comes out yesterday. How many of you even understood what Pam Bondi announced yesterday? There's several ways they go about. There's several ways they went about when the bad guys were in control now. There's several ways they went about convincing you, trying to convince you, the American public, that the war on drugs was real. They do trophy busts, they talk about all the money they're committing to border security and anti-smuggling initiatives. They come out and do press conferences, okay? But I've been talking to people for a while now. There's a hidden world out there. There's a whole hidden world out there, and you're not allowed to see it. It operates under a shield, under an invisibility shield, because it's been allowed to up until now, up until this administration. Deals got done. People in D.C. shielded these people. They were told, they're business partners. You allow your business partners room to operate, so the money keeps flowing. Every criminal network has the bosses and the capos. They have the people that are in charge, the senior people and the lower level people. The cartel people are not the senior people. They're the junior partners in this. They have been allowed to operate in our country until now as the junior partners. And they better make their payments to the managing partners in a timely fashion, or they will be cut off. But this is how things have been running. So while the war on drugs was underway for the last 50, that's the 80s, 50 years. The criminal cartels are government created and armed and protected. Did the smuggling, everybody shared the profits. They can see Trump is ending this. He's ending it. And where can you go? Where do you go to complain? I mean, what are they limited to doing at this point? You can't blow that boat up. You see how he keeps maneuvering them into indefensible positions? You can't send those troops in here to reduce the crime that we're not controlling in our blue city. You can't do that, you tyrant. You think Brandon Johnson and Gavin Newsom, whoever it is that's the mayor in Baltimore, the mayor in San Francisco, you think they're enjoying themselves these days, having to go up there? Don't you dare send your troops here. You better stay out. I'm doing a fantastic job letting crime run amok in my city. Run amok in my city. I'm doing a fantastic job. Don't you try to come here. You think they enjoy being maneuvered into that position based on what Trump has done in D.C.? It's only going to get worse for them. These people they can't stop him. All they can do is complain. But they can't stop anything. So Trump and Pete gave the order, and make sure you capture it on film. With the drone strike, blow that boat up, kill those 11 gang members, trying to smuggle more drugs in here so more Americans can die. Okay. Amok or amok. Okay, yeah. Thanks, bro. My brother looking out for me. We've all grown up in a culture that's been infiltrated, compromised, and taken over by a Luciferian elite class, a so-called elite class. They convince you that this is, they're trying so hard to stop the crime, to stop the drugs. They're trying so hard, just can't get anywhere. But you keep re-electing these people now. You keep re-electing them, no matter how bad things get in San Francisco and LA and Chicago. This is what you wanted. You keep returning these people to office because most of you citizens go out there and you elect these people. So you can't really complain that loudly about the insane criminal justice policies that they keep implementing. You can't complain. You keep re-electing these people. See, we've grown up in a system carefully crafted and created for us by a Luciferian class that delights in fucking with us mentally and beating us down. Yeah. A Luciferian class that literally crafted our culture. All of our cultural institutions, all of our expert class to fuck with us mentally. Now, you wanted this. You you can't complain about crime in Chicago. You keep voting for these people now. You did. What you complaining about? You shut your mouth. You wanted Brandon Johnson. You wanted all these people on the city council. You elected them. What are you complaining about? Yeah, they're fucking with you. So the war on drugs has been an example of the Luciferian cult fucking with all of us for 50 years. While they reap the profits, while the drugs continue to flow, while Americans continue to die, and all these people made bank. Yeah. War on drugs, war on terror, same thing. He's fucking with us. And then Donald Trump comes down a golden escalator in 2015. At first, they're mocking him and laughing. Oh, sure. Dumbass doesn't know what he's getting into. Doesn't he understand how much control we have over the culture here? How deeply we've been programming the American public for over 100 years now? Doesn't he understand this? He's seriously going to try to take us on. And here we are, September 2025. Oh, they're not laughing at him now. I guarantee you, they don't laugh. They're not mocking the guy now. They've watched him carefully position his, just as they've done 100 years, carefully hollowing out our government and replacing it with a literal, I'm not exaggerating, literal criminal mafia network. He is hollowing out their network and destroying it, and they can't really say shit about it. And now reached the point he's blowing up their boats. He's forced them to move back to the boats, and he's blowing up the boats. He's made it clear he's going to blow them up now. He said, don't try this again. We will do this. Yeah, he's made it clear. Now, he didn't have to say, we're going to do this one time. Hopefully you guys get the message. No, they send another boat, and they get discovered. The rules of engagement in the drug war changed dramatically. That's what, and everybody can see it. I mean, do I have to explain? You watch the video and you see the boat go boom. Does it really have to be explained that the rules of engagement have changed dramatically under Donald Trump and the war on drugs? Well, I think everybody can see it. What does it mean? What does it mean that the rules of engagement have changed? See, here's where I was going with the Luciferian cult being in control of our culture. They hit you repeatedly with mind-numbing chaos. They dull your mind, to desensitize you, to depress you. Over 100 years ago, there was a case in Florida recently. I think it was Florida. Let me give you a perfect example of how you can tell if your culture is being run by a Luciferian cult that is trying to depress you and program you and grind you down into dust. It gives you an example of that. There was a guy that tried to break into a house in Florida. I don't remember what town it is in Florida. And it's made the news because when the guy tried to break into the house, he cut his arm on some glass in the window that he was trying to crawl into, and he bled to death. What attracted my attention was the way this was covered in the media. This is the real headline now. Man with history of rape and kidnapping dies trying to break into a house. What man with history of rape and kidnapping inadvertently dies trying to perform another rape and kidnapping. Hmm. In the 1800s, if you got caught trying to break into a house and rape a woman, they hung you. They gave you a trial first, well, usually. You murdered somebody, they hung you. You raped a woman, they hung you. You raped a child, you bet they hung your ass, okay? Luciferians spent 100 years beating our culture down. Now, capital punishment doesn't work. They invested a lot of money into this, okay? A lot of money and time and resources and strategizing how they were gonna utterly, pardon my French, fuck up not just the federal criminal justice system. If you go into a lot of these states, even down at the county level, the big county like Maricopa, which has what, 200,000, 250,000 people in it. I mean, there are counties here that have, and especially New York City and all these other counties, the state and county level, they spent a long time making sure the right people ended up winning certain elections. And then they have deliberately screwed up our criminal justice system to the point that if you say a rapist should be executed, you're the lunatic. You're the bad person. They spent 100 years, over 100 years at this point, conditioning the public. Now, you can't, we're not going the capital punishment route. Don't even talk about that. And yet, despite they're trying to do that, they're trying to force that on our country. What do the voters keep doing? They can't hide all of it now. They can game and rig some of this. But we still have capital punishment in what, 25, 30 states? And executions are still sometimes carried out. But they've really been trying to cut down on this. So we've grown up in a culture heavily influenced by a Luciferian, a very, very deep pockets Luciferian so-called elite class that want to see certain things in our culture. And they have the deep pockets to rig our elections and make sure people who play ball with their agenda are the ones who end up in office. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. 27 states. Thank you, Dwayne. But how many people get executed every year? Like what, 10, 12? Out of all those 27 states, how many people actually get executed? Even in Texas, I remember they were attacking Texas back in the 90s and the 2000s, especially under George W. Bush. Um, Texas would kill maybe 10, 15 people a year at the most, 10, 12 executions. And the fake news, the oligarchs controlled fake news media would lose its mind over every single one of them. Yeah. So we have grown up in a culture that tries to convince us. Now, you can't do common sense justice. You can't do that We have to listen to the experts. Experts say capital punishment doesn't work. Experts say we need to turn our criminal justice system into a fucking revolving door because these people know what's best. And listen, you keep re-electing. See, I understand how stuff comes down to elections, right? You see why I keep repeating that. You keep voting for these people who keep doing this to you. What the hell are you complaining about? Shut up! You voted for this! And they know. See, the people who tell you this, they know the truth. Luciferians, man. They're the absolute worst, man. To know they've been rigging our elections. And when you complain too loudly about what the puppets are doing to you and your family and your community, your city and your state, your country, what do they tell you? Well, if they get done rigging an election and make sure somebody like Lori Lightfoot or Brandon Johnson wins it, and you complain about this shit Lori Lightfoot and Brandon Johnson are doing in Chicago, not enforcing the law, not cutting down on all that violent crime. 50, 60 people being shot every fucking weekend. You start complaining about nothing really being done with that. What do the Luciferians tell you? You shut your mouth. You voted for these people. You're getting what you deserve, and you're getting it good and hard. So shut the fuck up. And they delight in doing this to you. They get off on it. I'm about 10 ounces through my 12-ounce cup of coffee. I'm more dangerous than ever. There is no war on crime. There hasn't been. There's never been a war on crime in this country. Not under these people. Since they got control. There's been no war on drugs. That's a fake ass war on drugs. So that's the war on drugs thing. It's real now. It took Trump a little while to get to this point. Shut down the land corridor, shut down the air. Now they're going to shut down the sea. Well, shit. What are they supposed to do now? Land or sea. Can't get our shit into the country by either three of those routes. No, like Hudson. I love doing Hudson from Amos. Oh, that's just great. We're some pretty deep shit now, man. No, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Okay, yeah, you can't get the drugs, you can't get the fat into the country through land or sea. You gotta build the transporter, develop a transporter. Okay, like Star Trek, they're gonna transport it. What are you gonna do? I don't feel sorry for these people. I don't. I want them to be wiped out utterly and destroyed. The whole Luciferian class. So that's the war on drugs. So, and I'm going to explore that thought a little bit. Now we're going to get to Bobby. Oh, let me turn this off a second. Yeah, hey, you said, what are tulip bloom shop stuff, coat loans, backgrounds, or coat loans, promo code Kate's, because, Patrick pays me a little something if you buy some of his stuff. I make a little something off of that. But then I'll lower that, you can't see my chin, so I'm going to lower it a little bit there. Okay, there we go. I'll put that back up by the time I'm done at the end of the show. So, the reason so many people are screaming, oh my God, you can't do it. You're actually killing criminals. You're killing them. You're killing the drug smugglers that bring all this shit in here and kill Americans with it. How dare you do that? How dare you? Okay, and they're all losing their minds and freaking out. And then the very next day, Bobby Kennedy goes in front of the Luciferian elites and U.S. Congress. Well, most of the people on the congressional panel that was questioning him yesterday, I consider them Luciferians, even some of the GOP people. Because this isn't just Democrats. The Uniparty is very real. Luciferian oligarchs funded Uniparty. It's very real. And Bobby's made some moves recently that has the Luciferian class shrieking and wailing like banshees. And I'm going to explain to you at length why I have a. Hold on, I got a message here. Let me see what that is. Okay, my good friend Stuff Shell keeping me appraised of what he's up to, which is good because there's election stuff that's coming that's gonna rock the world. The Luciferian class fully understands they will not be able to make any comeback from this if Trump and Bobby are successful at what they are doing now. I'm certainly show you this this post that I did the other day. Okay, let's start with this one. Okay, make sure that's the one that you're looking at there. Let me go back in there. Okay, yeah, here's why the Luciferian class is so freaked out these days. Especially yesterday. I mean, they tried to stop Bobby. They did. We had a massive fight just to get Bobby in there. And I call him Bobby because I can tell he's saying RFK Jr., RFK Jr., RFK Jr. Okay. I'll just go ahead and call him Bobby, like I know the guy. Okay. It was a big fight to get him in there. Same thing with Pete, same thing with Tulsi, because the swamp, we call it the swamp, but you could also call it the Luciferian elite class, with elite in quotes now. But these people are the cultural drivers. They are cultural gatekeepers. They gatekeep our institutions very, very ferociously, okay? And a big sign that patriots are in control and that we're gaining even more control every day. Trump was able to get Bobby and Pete and Pam and Tulsi and all of these people. He was able to get them past the gatekeepers. They tried so hard to keep them out. And I understood there was going to be months of preparation to get each of these agencies in a position where the truly radical stuff could start being done. Some of it was easy. You could do that early. Like I discussed how at the very beginning, it was very important to shut off the money. That had to happen first before anything else happened. You had to stop the looting out of the Treasury. And that took some months to set up. It's like almost 2 to 3 months from late January to about April. You had to set that up. 2 months isn't a very long time, but that had to go first. You had to shut down the money laundering, the looting. Then came the trade reset and the institution of the tariff revenues. You had to do that too. Now, all kinds of other good things are going on. But those two things were crucial because Trump needs what to do a lot of the shit he wants to do over the next year. He needs a certain amount of revenue. And what a lot of people don't understand, what they don't realize, is that the deep state globalist cult, Luciferian cabal, whatever you want to call it, the blob, whatever your favorite appellation for it is. A key tactic that they used when they realized, they weren't going to be able to stop Trump from coming back. And he wins the November election. But even before that November election happened, none of the people in the elite class really believed Harris was going to win, okay? They knew that. They knew he was coming back by the summer of last year. A year ago, they knew they were not going to be able to stop him. They had to go through the motions with the election and everything, but they knew he was going to win, all right? So the strategy they hit on is we're not gonna leave him anything to work with. Okay, he's gonna come in, and we will have completely wrecked the economy. We will have completely looted the treasury. We will have and all about just the Department of Energy under that Granholm bitch. How many billions of dollars did they shovel out the door between the election day, November 2024, and Trump being inaugurated? It was over $90 billion. They shoveled furiously out the door. Leave him nothing. The goal was to leave him nothing. And I didn't leave him anything. And they were going to keep him locked out of the treasury while they continued to loot it. While they pictured him running around trying to do various initiatives that he can't really do because he doesn't have any funding to do them. Okay, this is what they wanted. This is what they planned for. This is what they were hoping to see. So it took a while now. He had to do these things first. Stop the looting out of the treasury. Build the revenues so he has operating capital to do the things that need doing. That had to be the two most major initiatives. Control of the Treasury, exposure of the Social Security Administration. That's another way you shut down the looting. The trade tariff thing, okay. Now, once you're ready with that, he starts rolling out the declassifications. Once that's well in hand, we start revisiting some of this Spygate, Russiagate stuff. Flangate, he starts revisiting these things. And then, while all that's going on, there's increasing clamor at the HHS with Bobby Kennedy saying, well, I just discovered that the HHS is the world's largest human smuggling organization. And you would see rumblings from the HHS with Bobby Kennedy. But now, what he did yesterday, okay, Trump is ready to move on two fronts now. Well, hold on. Three fronts now. War on crime, war on drugs, war on vaccines. Three different fronts. And a lot of careful preparation went into this. Months and months of preparation to get us into to get Bobby and Trump into a position where they can now simultaneously attack the Luciferian cult on three different fronts and force them to split their resources. Okay, let's go into this first post here. I want to explain why the Luciferian class is so utterly freaked out by what RFK Jr. is ready to do now. He's made rumblings that he's going to be doing this, and that freaked them out. Okay, now he's really doing it. He's talking about evidence that was destroyed at the CDC about autism. He's starting to roll it out. They were desperately afraid he was going to do this. Now, a lot of people have not thought this through about why these people are as freaked out as they are. So I wrote this post to explain it. So here's why the Luciferian class is so utterly freaked out by what RFK Jr. has already done and what they know he is preparing to do. If you think the high holy priesthood of the Luciferian class at the CDC and the NIH and the HHS hasn't been very carefully studying and documenting the effects of the increasing number of vaccines on America's children for the past couple of decades, you think they haven't been religiously compiling data about that and studying it and examining it? Well, if you think they haven't been doing that, my son or daughter, you are still dwelling in the veil of illusion because they have been studying this. I guarantee you they have been. They have been studying the increasing effects of the ever increasing vaccination program on America's kids. They've been studying this closely for decades, tinkering with the results they have been obtaining, trying different combinations, looking for the vaccine cocktails that will give them the best desired results. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Do you really understand what I'm telling you about what they have been doing to the children? Do you really understand? Or is your mind revolting? And you're shutting your mind off and saying, no, I can't go there. I'm not ready to go there. But the country is about to be taken there by Bobby Kennedy. I guarantee you, people like Dr. Anthony Fauci and Francis Collins and Peter Marks and Susan Monares, they know what the collected data is going to show if Bobby Kennedy is successful in bringing that out for the entire country to look at. No, they know what will happen to them if the public ever sees that data. So, you understand why there will be no comeback for these people from this if this data gets out? You understand? Because I see people out there, oh, nothing stopped the Luciferian cult, man. No, nothing stops them. They just roll with the punches and they keep coming. You'll never destroy these people. No, you can't do it. Their pockets are too deep. Their influence is too great. You'll never get rid of them. I have people tell me this. What if they've been carrying out literal human experimentation on Americans' children, trying to deliberately fuck them up for more than 80 years? And the data on that gets out. You tell me how much of a comeback these people will be able to make. Then. Mm. No, there's no coming back from this for them. And they know it, even if most of the bullshit social media influencers on this platform don't understand that. There's no apology tour that they could do. Or clever PR campaign. Hey, that that gold standard PR firm. I think we can massage this for a couple of years and then we'll be able to make a comeback. Well, no, I don't think so. Now, look, this is not a joke picture. I'm telling you something here. What am I telling you with this picture? I understand some people may not mentally be ready to face this because they have children that died from SIDS or vaccine related causes, or they have autistic kids, or they had kids that have neurological and other damages from having multiple toxic shots in their infancy, in their developing years. And it is an awful and terrible and horrible thing to realize you were tricked by a Luciferian elite class who set this up just to get the kid into public school. You had to give him 30 shots. And you didn't know and you did not understand what these people were doing. You didn't understand it. And you harmed your own kids. Stop telling me, oh, they'll do a fucking PR campaign. They'll be back in a year or two. I'm convinced one of the reasons they're so hell-bent on getting as many of these toxic shots into the kids as early as possible is because they've been studying the effects of the shots for decades at this point. They know the results that they are obtaining, and they're constantly trying to tinker with this to obtain the best results. What is one of the things the Luciferian class would consider a good result from the vaccination programs in the public schools when they're jabbing kids with 20, 30, 40, 50 shots by the time they're 6 or 7 years old? Kill your soul, kill your spirit, kill your imagination. You end up with a dull mind. Toxins injected into your body have a dramatic effect on your, not just your physical body, but your spiritual being. You understand that? They're literally trying to drive the God gene out of you. So a lot of people are like, nah, man, that's too, that can't be what they're doing. No, um, I don't believe it. That can't be it. That they've been deliberately experimenting on America's kids. They're trying to make them sicker. They're trying to make them more easily controllable. They're trying to create a worker bee class that doesn't have a spiritual sense or an imagination to see a world beyond the digital world that the Luciferians have created for them. I can't believe that. No, sorry. And look, I understand it's traumatic, especially if you've lost a child to this. But staying in the matrix is not an option. You have to wake up, even though, I'm going to share something else here. Okay. Waking up is painful to do. It can be very, very painful. Make sure I got the right one here. Yeah. Waking up can be very painful. I know because I underwent an experience the day I woke up and I realized let's just read it. Okay, I made this exact face myself as the full realization hit me. This was a number of years ago. While we all share a real world together, rocks, trees, the sky, oceans, it's the real world that we live and move in. We share a real world together. Mentally, we'd all been trapped in a fake mental construct world, a matrix, if you will. carefully crafted for us by Luciferians to dominate, control, and exploit us. They want your children. They want your children to grow up less free, less mentally agile, less less everything than you. They're out to literally create a worker bee class, and you study the number of shots they've gone through since the 1980s. I think it was 3 or 4. It's up to 70 now that they strongly encourage parents to give, 70 something shots to the children by the time they reach a certain age, the vaccine schedule. And they've known all along what pumping all these toxins that, basically the idea is to correct. Okay, remember, these people are Luciferians. They're anti-God. Luciferians are not atheists. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying. These people are not atheists, all right? They are in rebellion against God. They hate God. They worship the devil. They worship Lucifer. The first time you hear this, satanic cult's been running the world. Okay, yeah, your mind goes, oh, you reject that. Okay? They've known for over 100 years what injecting certain chemical toxins into a developing child will do to that child. They've studied the effects very carefully. They're trying to manage and guide and steer as much the people they have control of. People in Africa, some of these non-developed worlds, they don't have that much control. But in what we consider the developed world, they're able to get in there with their vaccine programs. They want to start guiding and manipulating and steering humanity into becoming something else than what God created it to be. He created us, God created us to be a certain way, male and female. And the first thing that you learn when you study the Luciferian cult, which was the subject of my last column, let me make sure that you all seen that. Go to my dashboard real quick. Give me a second. I had a different column up. Okay, now I'm going to share this. I'll make sure you all read this. A big key sacred belief of the Luciferians is that they need to do everything they can to corrupt and destroy the creation as God made it. And that includes destroying human sexuality. Because as humans, you're male or you're female. And one of the first things you learn when you look into what the Luciferian cult, what these people actually believe, what they practice, you'll begin to see why they do the whole androgynous thing, why they do the whole trans thing. You'll begin to see why they do that. And, you need to understand none of this shit that's been going on with what I call the sexual confusion revolution is organic. Rich, very extremely wealthy. You only know some of what they own. They don't declare a lot of what they actually own, They may come out and say this guy's worth 10 billion, this guy's worth 20 billion. Actually, their real assets, including a lot of the assets they have out of sight, they're probably worth 40, 50 billion. Are very deep pockets people here now. And they put a lot of time, effort, money, prayers to Baal, prayers to Lucifer, prayers to Pazuzu. They put a lot of time and money into this, okay, to foment and foist a sexual confusion revolution on the developed nations that they have the most control over. Okay, so I encourage you to read that. And thank God now that sexual confusion revolution is coming to an end. It is ending. Donald Trump is ending it. So these people are the anti-humans. They want to create not they want to take a human, male and female, and create the transhuman. And what people are going to discover is a lot of their drug therapy. Some of you are really going to, I'm about to blow your mind. And some of you are going to get very pissed at me when I say this. The goal of the Luciferians is to destroy sex and the human race as God created it, male, female. They want to create the transhuman. That's their goal. That's always been their goal. That's why a lot of the cultists that are men dress up like women, and a lot of them that are women dress up like men. A key goal of their vaccine agenda, what they've been inflicting on our country for a long time now, decades, while they carefully tinker with the results and try different drug and chemical cocktails in these vaccines to produce the most impressionable children, suggestible children, programmable children, to produce promising candidates where they can take the next step in their transhuman agenda. Why do you think this entire medical industry just like appeared out of nowhere 20, 30 years ago, where a therapist takes a sexually confused child, gives them mind-bending drugs that make them susceptible to suggestions, and has them lie down on a couch and then talks to them in a low modulated voice, a hypnotist voice, if you will, and begins counseling them to believe, if they're born a girl, that they're actually a boy. If they were born a boy, that they're actually a girl. Where did you think this medical discipline came from? That's like the last 15, 20 years, it's like a whole trans child movement came out of nowhere, but it didn't actually come out of nowhere. They've been tinkering with America's kids for a long time to get to this point. And of course, Donald Trump coming down a golden escalator about 10 years ago forced them to speed up the transhuman agenda. He forced them to speed it up. And they have speeded it up. And they have a lot of money and a lot of their time and a lot of their resources, a lot of people that they rigged elections and they put them in positions as governors, lawmakers in our Congress, governors of states, mayors of major cities, chiefs of police, city council members, school board members. They invested a lot into this now to create the transhuman. They had to. What were they going to do? Stop? Oh, hell no, they're not going to stop. What? Give up their real religion? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to press forward faster and faster as America tries to shut them down. They're going to go faster. He forced them to go. I mean, remember Wasn't it like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago? Everybody's arguing about drag queen story hour at the public library. And then 5 or 6 years ago, we're suddenly arguing about drag queen shows for kids where they get up there and strip in front of the kids, all in good, clean fun. It's like drag queen story hour, and then not even 10 minutes later, we're arguing about drag queen shows for the kids. And then not even 5 minutes after that, we're arguing about boys showing up wearing wigs and makeup, participating in girls' sports. And this is just here in America. They've gone way beyond this in places like the United Kingdom, where they're literally taking men and sticking them in women's prisons and shit like that. Trump made it so these people are in an awful hurry now to create the transhuman. Satanist Luciferian belief is that you can use magic to be whatever you want to be. Use your occultic mental powers. If you're born with, like, you were told you were born a male or a female, use the power of your mind. Be whatever you want to be. Do whatever you will. You want to dress up like you're born a boy, but you want to dress up like a girl. Do that. Do whatever thou wilt. Do what thou wilt. So some people think the Bible is this ancient book. It doesn't have any bearing on the modern world. Christianity is a joke. They don't understand. You are literally in a world where the Luciferians and the Jesus people are locked together in mortal combat. You do not understand it. You can't see it. It's all around you, but you can't see it because the one side of this, the Luciferian side, got exceedingly clever about disguising themselves and what they're trying to do to the rest of us. They got really good at disguising themselves. Jesus people don't disguise themselves. I'm a Jesus person. Hello. You need to make Jesus your Lord and Savior. He died for you on the cross. No disguise there. The other side, well, this boy is really a girl. I'm a medical professional. Or I'm like that gay faggot that appeared on the CBS morning news show this past weekend. They have to talk about, it's a very bad thing that RFK Jr. is like, doing away with vaccine mandates. Oh, this is horrible. We're not going to be able to force people to involuntarily inject themselves with experimental poison jabs any longer so they keep their job or go to school. Oh, this is terrible. They put a literal fucking Satanist on the TV show, dressed up in a three-piece suit, speaking very calmly, but he's a Satanist. He's a Luciferian. Are you paying attention? A literal freaking Luciferian to whine over how vaccine mandates are being removed from the CDC and in places like Florida. Oh, this is so dangerous. Now these cool kids won't be pumped full of 50, 60 toxic shots before they turn 5 years old. Oh, it's so horrible. Oh, it's terrible. The Jesus people are going to save you from the Luciferians, whether you want them to or not. The Luciferians are going to be exposed. They're being exposed right now. That's one reason you had a lot of people from the Luciferian elite class screaming in Bobby Kennedy's face yesterday morning at that hearing at Capitol Hill. He's just fired a bunch of these people at the CDC who are trying to hide what he is about to roll out. Literal experimentation on America's kids to dumb them down, deaden their spirits, kill their souls, rob them of any imagination, turn them into docile, compliant worker bees. They know what the data shows. They were compiling it themselves. They were studying it themselves. And for some reason, they can't just destroy it. And they know Bobby Kennedy has got access to it now. He's going to start bringing it out. And when he does, I want you to understand this. When Bobby Kennedy wrote that out there, it's over for all of these people. And the spiritual awakening that the world is undergoing is going to massively explode. Because even people that have no religious bent, that have no religious interest or whatever, wow, I was tricked into. I mean, if you don't believe Lucifer is real, you're going to see that these people who were in disguise and infiltrated all of our cultural institutions and set themselves up as our expert class, okay, these people do believe in him, okay? They do believe in Lucifer. And they were wheeling fucking with the rest of us in a wheeling evil and deceptive way. Nothing will ever be the same after that, after this comes out. So some people see that picture, that meme I made, Luciferians, those Luciferians, man, they're the absolute worst, man. They think it's a joke. I'm not joking. When you come to fully realize what the Luciferians have been doing to us, how cleverly they disguised themselves so they could implement, they disguised themselves to set themselves up as our cultural icons, our cultural authorities, so they could brainwash us and program us not to see what they were doing to us and our families and our children and our communities and our country and our world. They disguised themselves. And they had control of the media. Anybody that tried to call them out the shit they were doing instantly got dismissed with a label. That's the conspiracy theorist. That's the tinfoil hat lunatic. That person's crazy. You know what Alice in Wonderlanding is? Alice in Wonderland, see, there's a reason the fake news, if you let it, will have you in a constant state of mental chaos and fear and gloom and confusion if you follow the fake news. That fake news is owned and operated and controlled by the people I've been telling you about, the Luciferian class, the deep pockets people behind all of this. They own it. They run it. There's an interrogation technique the CIA uses where they have two different interrogators. They literally throw repeated nonsense and they make the person being interrogated confused to the point that they start doubting their own perception of reality. They try to burn the person's mind. And when a person is in that state, they've been confused and disoriented mentally. The grip on reality is slipping. One of those interrogators will hold out hope, a coherent narrative that makes sense. After hours and hours of hitting this person with nothing but confusion and disorientating statements, suddenly they provide what looks like a logical framework, and that person will grab it with both hands and accept it. Alice in Wonderland. Look it up. Alice in Wonderland. CIA. Look that up. Now people say MK Ultra disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore. You know, Thomas Richter was telling me this a couple years back. They tried MK Ultra, you know, and it didn't work, so they abandoned it. What was MK Ultra? Well, it was feeding people drugs and trying to put them in a suggestible state where they could be programmed and mind control could be exerted over them. And then Richter would say, well, good thing that failed. It's not like they can do that today, right? Yeah, the same people that are out to relentlessly program you every day, program and brainwash you every day, stopped MK Ultra 50, 60 fucking years ago. They're certainly not trying to do it now, right? Not like they take impressionable young children and they pump them full of SSRIs and other drugs, and then they lie them down and they make suggestions to them. It's not like they just rebranded MK Ultra and rolled it out as a new medical discipline or anything like that. It's not like there's any real brainwashing or programming or mind control going on today. Especially with these trans kids that keep showing up and shooting people. No, that kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. Alice in Wonderland. Okay. So Bobby gets yelled at by Luciferians. I watched it. I watched that all day yesterday. They're nervous. They know it's over for them if this gets out. If this gets out, man, it's, oh boy, if this gets out. The fact not just the fact that they know they've been deliberately harming the children. They had a sick agenda. They were trying to accomplish something by harming children. Generations of American children. And I love how Bobby just threw it right back in their faces. He can't really come out and say you're all a bunch of fucking Luciferians and you're out to create the transhumans. He can't say that. He's limited to 76% of Americans now have metabolic diseases. Our kids are being harmed and they're being poisoned. And you didn't say shit when we went from like 12 to 11% when my uncle was president, okay? We went from like 11% of people having metabolic disease, now 76%. And you didn't say shit to stop any of this or call it out or deal with it. But we're going to deal with it now. So the Luciferians, this is the great thing about watching a silent war. Neither side can really say in public yet what the other side's been doing. Luciferians can't say, well, you know, our program to inject all of these kids with an increasing number of toxic poisonous shots so we can guide and influence and steer humanity into becoming the transhuman. You are wrecking our program. You are moving to remove the vaccine mandates, and pretty soon we won't be able to give these kids the 50, 60 fucking shots so they can go to public school. How dare you interfere with our program to create the transhuman? Who do you think you are? Okay, they can't say that. And the puppets in Congress may not even be aware of what the hell the major strategy is. They're just script readers, okay? A lot of these people are not very, I don't know if you, I don't mean to shock you, but a lot of our people in Congress are lawmakers who win these rigged elections. The reason they're handpicked for that job is because they're not very bright. Okay? They're script readers. They're puppets. Even the puppets can't come out and say, well, the people, you know, who rigged the election for me, who put me in this seat, They're not happy with what you're doing because they have a transhuman agenda. Wow, what? They have a transhuman agenda. And you're interfering with it. They can't say that. Bobby and Trump can't say that. You've been deliberate. It's not. They have to approach it like, yeah, you weren't paying attention. You were asleep at the wheel. All these kids got poisoned. All these kids got damaged. Now we're going to put a stop to it. They're not at the point yet. I know this upsets some people. They're not at the point yet. They say, you did this on purpose. Here's what you were trying to do. Not there yet. Can't. I can say it. I'm a commentator. I'm not president of the United States. I'm not going to cause a massive, probably premature firestorm by saying that from the White House. I'm just a guy on the internet talking about this. Bobby and Trump can't say this yet, okay? You cannot go beyond what people are ready to hear. See, the problem with shit postings on social media, a lot of them think they're helping. They're not helping. I'm going to force that person's eye. Come here, you. No, go. Oh, I'm going to force your fucking eyes open. There's nothing you can do about it. Shit posters think they're helping. Well, none of the key people I know, none of the people that were involved in the Great Awakening, do that kind of shit posting stuff. They might say something. They're trying to provoke curiosity, but they're not trying to grab somebody like, hey, you, come here, grab you by the scruff of the neck. Well, try to force your eyes open before you're ready for that. You will damage people trying to do that. Come here, force your eyes open. I don't care if you're ready for this or not. Get your ass over here. Force them open. You can't tell people certain things until you know they're ready to take that step. If you grab a puppy and you force its eyes open before it's ready to open its eyes, different than a shit poster that's trying to force somebody to wake up. The Holy Spirit moves when and where He will, and He works in the hearts of men. And when people are ready, they wake up. If you think you're going to grab somebody by the scruff of the neck and force their eyes open, you're an asshole. You're not helping. Trump and Biden know the country's not ready to hear about a Luciferian agenda to create the transhuman yet through a vaccination program. That's like it came right out of the fucking Nazis. They're not. Most of the public's not ready for that yet. Hell, some of the people that are watching me probably can barely take it. I got 20 minutes left. I'm going to move to the next subject. So, the Luciferian class, I said that. Okay, hold on. That's the wrong one. All right. So they had a big Epstein victim press conference in D.C. yesterday. Who did they roll out to make the big speech? You see, you watch any of these events. I've spent 40 years now watching events like this, okay? And you learn the tempo, you learn the agenda. If you pay attention, you can tell what they're trying to do. And yeah, yesterday on Capitol building, I think, I'm not sure where it was actually. I can't say Capitol building. I know it was like on steps, and they always pick steps of a very important building in DC. The whole press conference is like this. And they'll bring out the people to set the tone first, okay? And that's what the first half of the event will be, setting the tone. I had the victims speak, made the victims. And then towards the middle, they'll start hinting what their real agenda is, what they're trying to do. It's when some of these victims started mentioning Trump repeatedly, and some of these women started holding up signs showing Trump and Epstein together. And towards the end, they roll out what I call the keynote person, the person that's going to fully establish what the event is about and what they are trying to do. And the person they rolled out yesterday morning was Gloria Allred. Now, if you don't know or you don't remember who Gloria Allred is, this is the lady that from the time Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were having bimbo eruptions, okay? This is the lady that was handling it to make those problems go away. So when Democrats, uniparty Luciferian Democrats, have a real scandal, they've done something really bad, they raped somebody or they sexually harassed somebody, okay? This is the woman they call on to make that problem go away. Gloria Allred. But there's another side to her specialty. I'll put it that way. She has the specialty. When they have a GOP person and an outsider, somebody who's causing problems for the Luciferian cult, and they want to invent accusations of sexual misconduct, and they want to invent a scandal to go after that person with, they also call on Gloria Allred. Yes. She's very talented. She's very good at what she does. I would not deny it. She's very good at what she does. So she does two different things. She makes real scandals for Democrats go away. She does her best to try to make them go away. And the other side of that is she tries to invent scandals and hoaxes to target Republicans and GOP people, especially outsiders, people who are giving the Uniparty a rough time. They're exposing things that they don't want exposed. They try to discredit that person with a fake sexual harassment scandal. Gloria Allred, if you want to use an analogy or an allegory, she's like Captain Ahab. I'll tell you, Donald Trump is her white whale. She has been looking to land that white whale for some time now. And she, despite all of her efforts in the past to land and kill the white whale and gut it and merchandise its fat, despite all her attempts to land that white whale, she's failed up until now. But she hasn't given up. She hasn't given up. She's like the Energizer Bunny. She's still going. So they rolled out Gloria Allred yesterday, and she's the keynote speaker. It's going to give the real thing. And, of course, the real purpose of the press conference is to take Donald Trump and take Jeffrey Epstein and mash them together yet again, while the Democrats keep loudly calling for the Epstein evidence or the Epstein client list to be released publicly. Now, I realized a lot of people thought I was just being an asshole back in March when I started calling out this Epstein client list stuff. Why are you being so difficult, Kate? Why can't you leave this alone? Well, I've known about the Luciferian cult for a long time now. I'm glad things are Finally, at the point I can start speaking more openly about the world we actually live in, and the spiritual battle that's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. And this is just the present manifestation of it. I can start talking about that now. Yay! And you know what Alice in Wonderlanding is, and how all of our cultural institutions have been captured by the Luciferian cult, and they are very experienced at this point at launching psychological operations targeting the American public. So, from the time Trump first became president, yeah, my eyes are stinging. Give me a second. From the very first when Trump became president, and I started waking up to the fact that the fake news and the neocon news are actually funded by the same fucking people. Okay, I started waking up to that. Holy shit! You know, the same people that fund ABC News, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, New York Post, Politico. They keep all of these failing media institutions. They're not really making any real money. They keep them afloat with their deep pockets. The oligarchs' families. They're supporting all the fake news. They also support the neocon news. Holy shit! All those years I was a staunch American patriot conservative, watching Fox News, reading the Weekly Standard, reading the National Review online. All those years, I was being brainwashed and programmed by the same fucking people. The target audience is just different. They use the fake news to program and brainwash half of the public that follows the liberal news. They use the neocon news to brainwash and influence and program the conservative half of the country, the conservative side of the country. Oh my God, I remember the moment I figured that out. Oh my God. These people never fought for us. All they do is they tell us this isn't the hill to fight on. We need to abandon this fight and retreat. That's all these fucking neocons ever do. Unless they're pushing some new war. So we are all us conservatives need to get on board with. And the moment it dawned, oh my God, the same fucking people. Same fucking people are running all of this. And I started noticing after I woke up the neocon media and who was really funding it and what it was really used for. It's used to convince you. Okay, the fake news is used to convince the liberals. Team Red versus Team Blue. That's real now. There's no uniparty. These people are not on the same team behind the scenes. Team Red versus Team Blue. Your Team Blue. Yay, Team Blue. They're Team Red. Boo, Team Red. And they got there to do a fucking puppet theater every day. Keep you hooked and keep you watching. The fake news, they use that for the liberal half. Neocon news is used to keep the conservative half of the country invested in the fake Team Red versus Team Blue bullshit. You're Team Red. Yay, Team Red. Go GOP. Stop those drunken sailor spending liberals over there, the bleeding heart liberals. And they get you invested that the puppet show is real. Team Red versus Team Blue. Fake news versus neocon news. And I woke up in like 2018. I started waking up. Holy shit. Bill Kristol, Jonah Goldberg, Mona Karen, and Coulter. All these people who I bought all their books. I read all their books. I bought their magazines. Read all their, I used to hang out there on Coulter chat board. For years I hung out there. They've been fucking with us all this time. Wow. So I woke up to that, and I started watching when after Trump won the election, all of these people that vociferously tried to stop him suddenly came into the tent, came into the Trump tent. Oh yeah, we're MAGA now. We're America First now. Hell, Ann Coulter even wrote a book, "In Trump We Trust." Yeah. Now some of them couldn't maintain the illusion for very long that they were MAGA, that they were on board with America First. They couldn't hide their neocon roots, their neocon cables running back the neocon land. Ann Coulter's one of the first ones to bolt. Fuck this. Let me out of here. I can't stand this guy. Bill Kristol never came over. You know, all these people stayed never Trump all the way through. But some of them didn't do that. Well, I'll go over and I'll pretend to be MAGA. I built my street cred for a couple of years. Hopefully I can do some things to advance the neocon higher loyalty cause while I am in the MAGA camp. So I watched this, 2018 all the way to November 2020, and I saw what these people did. They pretended to be pro-Trump for about 2-3 years. And then, Trump is gone now. Trump is going to be gone now forever. He's gone. He lost. Get over it. He lost 2020, okay? He ran a horrible campaign. He deserves to lose. Stop talking about a stolen election. Move on. Vote harder. Vote smarter next time. Learn to do ballot harvesting better than them. Learn to use mail-in voting better than them. Learn to use early voting better than they do. Vote harder next time. I'm sitting there. Early March 2021, watching people like Mark Levin say shit like this live up on the stage. And that's when I started to figure out what CPAC really is. Even though Trump is going to be speaking there later. And that Trump is why I was really there. To listen to what Trump had to say in his first real public appearance as he climbed down that helicopter and left the White House. But I watched Mark Levin and all these other neocon media people who nominally pretended to be pro-Trump despite their higher loyalties. Watch them drop that mask after Trump left. Oh, thank God that guy is gone now. Thank God he'll never be back. Oh, watch that. And then he comes back in and he starts running again. December 2022, he announces he will run again. I watched all these same former MAGA people who came out of the neocon space into our big tent. And then it was like, oh, thank God he's gone now. And they abandoned him. They went back to business as usual. And then Trump announces he's going to run again in December 2022. What do? They go out and get themselves Ron DeSantis. And DeSantis spends all that money. DeSantis raises all those hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm still not convinced there wasn't something going on behind the scenes with Trump and DeSantis there. They suckered all these people into dumping all that money into a campaign. And anybody with any real smarts knew that wasn't happening. You were not going to take that nomination away from Donald Trump. Sorry. I'm still not convinced there wasn't something going on there. He suckered all these people into taking all that money that might have gone for somebody who would try to have stuck it out And they took that money and they dropped it in a big hole and they threw gas on it and they lit it on fire. But at any rate, these people enthusiastically lined up behind DeSantis, and then DeSantis collapsed. Nikki Haley, oh, don't make me laugh. Oh, any of those others, Vivek, yeah. Nobody was taking that nomination from Donald Trump. So he comes back, and all these, and okay, now I got to understand. I said all that to say this. A lot of these social media influencers never abandoned MAGA. They came out of the neocon space. They're heavily influenced by neocon money. They never left. Only some of them left. And now they're trying to come back. They went out there to simp with DeSantis, and they're trying to reinsert themselves, you know. But a lot of them, they didn't leave. They stayed here. They just never talk about the election theft. If you press them, they'll say, well, we just need to vote harder and vote smarter. They don't talk about election fraud. Election fraud's not their thing. Many of them will already talk about 2020 being stolen because their audience expects it. But mostly when it comes to talking about elections, they're like, get out there, vote harder, vote smarter, vote earlier, mail-in vote, you know. They take that route. They don't say, our elections are fake and gay, they're all rigged, the machines are fixed. None of these goons running any of these cities or states are really winning these elections. It's all fake and gay. 2/3 of our Congress shouldn't even be there. I'm not really winning their elections. But they don't say that. Just vote harder. And a rigged and compromised system, vote harder. Okay, so here's where I've been going with that. The deep pockets oligarchs families that control both the fake news and the neocon news, and they have assets embedded in the MAGA space as top level social media influencers. They know you don't trust fake news. They know that. They know you don't watch it, you don't believe anything it says. Or you tell me you don't. Okay. So about 6-7 years ago, I said, okay, fine. We can't influence the MAGA base. We can't cause chaos within it. We can't get these people to doubt Trump's judgment, his intelligence, his honesty. Can't get him to do any of that through our fake news avenues. This is a very different segment of the population. We can reach a certain sizable chunk of the population with fake news, but we cannot reach the growing Trump base. And Trump been massively expanding his base every year since he came down that golden escalator. We got to find a way to influence that base, infiltrate it, cause chaos, division, keep those public support numbers down. We've got to find a way to do that. They found a way to do that. So a lot of these people that came out of the neocon space, they're funded by neocon media at the first. Now they have very successful live stream and radio shows and Substacks, and they make their money that way. Supposedly, that's where all their money is coming from. It's not like they're taking money behind under the scenes, under the table to read scripts, 6-7 figure contracts that they sign. No, that can't be happening. They're very successful on their own. Why would they do that? Well, I had to be that guy back in March when they called in a bunch of these social media influencers, whether they understood this or not, whether they were in on it or not. They've been used during the last 2-3 years of the Biden administration to loudly and publicly call for the release of the Epstein client list, demanding that list be released to the public. They returned to that theme over and over and over again. That the only way any of these victims were going to ever get justice would be if a list were publicly released so that an online mob could be marshaled up to go after them, everybody on the list. That would be the only way any of the victims would ever get any justice. So, back in 2022, around then, this long, sustained program, script, talking points began going out to certain key people, very highly elevated within the MAGA base as social media influencers, to influence the base to begin demanding the release of a client list. And for 2.5 years, this went on until, hey, Trump wins the election. So everybody begins to form now based on what the seeds they've carefully planted. Everybody begins to expect that Trump and Biden will be releasing that client list any day now. Any day now, that client list is going to be released. And February turns into March. And you probably don't remember this, but see, all of February, so the demands began growing louder and louder. Where's the list? Where's the list? Where's the list? So Pam Bondi invites some of the most famous social media influencers in the MAGA space to assemble themselves at the White House so she can give them some binders containing all the evidence that they have in the Epstein case. I know I've gone over, I'm going to end this in about 10 minutes, but basically, here's what happened. A massive psyop. Remember, I talked about Alice Wonderland and the CIA. People who make 6-7 figures a year huddle together. These people don't watch fake news anymore. How do we get the Trump base to turn on itself? How do we get them to turn on Trump? How do we get Trump's public support? How do we drive it downward to the point that he no longer will have any confidence that he can do all the radical shit that he's been doing? He can't continue it. And certainly not the radical stuff he's planning to do. He can only do that now because his public support's a certain level. How do we get the support numbers to go down? So he voluntarily starts pulling back because his support dropped. I think about 2022, they said, okay, assuming this guy comes back, we need to have a narrative ready that we can use that will literally cause the Trump base to eat itself, to cause his support numbers to drop. And they hit upon the idea of an Epstein client list that needs to be released to the public. It needs to be released. Now, if you're like me and you follow legal cases involving child sexual exploitation and trafficking, and you know how this sort of thing is really handled in the real world, and how about 30 different child sex trafficking rings have been taken out in the last 6-7 months, then you know how this is really done. And taking a list of ongoing investigations and dropping it, a list of names of some people who may even have the most tangential relationship with Epstein. Maybe they rode on his plane once or twice. Taking a list like that and dropping it into the public realm. Are you fucking nuts? Do you not understand how anything in the real world actually works? And yet, what have we watched unfold? A psyop. We watched a psyop unfold. Give us the list. Give it to us. Give us the fucking list. What the fuck are you waiting for? Hand it over. And I'm watching all of this build and build and build. And I'm like, I had no idea people could be this fucking dumb. But apparently they're getting traction with this because nobody knows how anything actually works. So I had to be that guy in March after that binder stunt at the White House. I got the message. Yeah, a message was sent out that day. And of course, all the big social media influencers can't admit to you what message they got that day. But I know what the message was. I know what Jack Posobiec and Liz Wheeler and DC Draino and Scott Pressler and any of those other guys and gals, TikTok, I know the message they got that day. We're on to what is going on. You can yell for that fucking client list as many times as you want. You can yell for a list of names to be dropped into the public sphere so you can get up an online mob to go after them. It will never happen. Oh, well, literally everybody is getting the story wrong. They don't understand what Trump and Bondi did. Oh, and you don't believe Trump didn't know exactly what Bondi was doing. You're a dumbass, okay? Trump knew exactly what Pam Bondi was doing that day, okay? So I had to go public with this. I suspected this is what was happening. The binder thing proved it. And then what happened from March all the way to yesterday? These people who've been psyoping the American public for years, they're very clever. They're not going to use, you think they're going to try to launch a psyop targeting the Trump base through fake news? Of course they're not going to do that. They know you're not watching fake news. They have to give you other sources to trust, other sources that can influence you. Well, where do they find those sources? They find certain people and offer them a 6-figure contract, 7-figure contract. Here, read the script about an Epstein client list. You think these deep pockets people don't understand this is an existential fight and that it's over for them if they lose it? How deeply do you think they're willing to invest in this? So I've been saying for a long time now, a lot of these social media influencers out there that are very highly elevated in the MAGA space, they live in $1 million houses now. They're not who you think they are. They're not. Very serious intelligence professionals sit down, huddle up, put their head together, and brainstorm how they're going to fuck with the Trump base, get the Trump base to start eating itself, turning on itself, fighting, create chaos and division within it, get certain groups to split off from each other and weaken it and drive that public support down where Trump doesn't dare to do the things that he's getting ready to do. They tried a lot of different things over the past 6, 7 months. Only one of them ever got them anywhere. They tried for a while to get the new recent RFK people who came in during the campaign last year. They tried to get them and the Trump people to split for a while. Snap, soda, and other shit. Okay, that didn't work. They didn't get anywhere with that. There's only one thing they've tried that worked. It's the one that they spent the time on it. They prepared the ground. That's the Epstein client list. That's the only thing they attempted to do over the last 7 months that got them any results. When it came to big accounts out there, some people are coming out saying literally, I can't support this man any longer. He won't release the list. So, fuck him. And every time Pam Bondi or Cat Spatero or Dan Bondino post anything, you got all those hundreds of comments that immediately show up. Where's the list? Where's the list? Hey, bitch, where's the list? Give us the list. You call yourself a digital soldier, or you call yourself an anon, and you still let people emotionally manipulate the shit out of you. Maybe you better sit back and reassess what you really are. I do not think a real digital soldier or a real anon will allow themselves to be emotionally manipulated like this with something the public was never going to get. Somehow, this massive expectation was created by very clever people using alternative media to create this expectation that a list was going to be released, and it should be released. And it's a really bad sign that Trump won't release it. And now what happened? Trump literally has to come out and say, this is a psyop. This is a hoax. He's not saying Epstein didn't do what he did. He's not saying that. He's not saying there's no Epstein case. No. He says the expectation that there was a list of names of people who were associated or clients of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, that we were going to take that and drop it in the public realm before the cases are over and the investigations are done. That is a hoax. That would ever happen. I have to be that guy. I have to get your shit together. Stop listening to people who are fucking with you and emotionally manipulating you and leading you to expect and demand things you can't have. Stop it. And it's not fun having to be that guy. So yesterday they trot out Gloria fucking Allred at the end of this thing. And I made this post yesterday. People are going to start to see who was behind this. Deep pockets people are going to start to see who's funding all this, what's been going. Now it's obvious where they were going with this. They'll engineer a fake client list that doesn't exist, that can never be released to the public. They can't release it. They'll gin up expectations that Trump should release it. When he doesn't, they'll use that to attack him. And it will work. And it has been working on the dumb people in the Trump base. It's been working. Well, I don't understand why Trump can't release that list. What's the harm in releasing a client list? And just drop it out there. We'll handle it. We'll go after these people, We'll do it. Oh, yeah, the people just tell me this about the Durham thing. Oh, there's no investigation going on. None of these leakers are being investigated. Schiff's not being investigated. Swalwell's not being investigated. None of the people leaking out of our Congress are being investigated. I had people hit me over the head with that when I knew it wasn't true. And then they didn't renew the gag order for the 70 people in and around the U.S. Congress for a fourth year. And we found out there had been a grand jury seated collecting evidence against these leakers in Congress for 3 years, 2018 to 2021. These people have been psyoping the public for over 100 years now. They're good. They're very good at what they do. They're not going to find some, try to hit you with a narrative that doesn't look attractive. You're going to find something that will appeal to you. Hey, an Epstein client risk. These people victimize children. Yeah, I want to know who they are. That's the hook. That's the hook they get you with. If you understand how child sexual trafficking and the bad shit that goes on in cases like this, you would understand why they can't just take a list of anybody that's ever been associated with Epstein or found in a book somewhere and drop it in the public space. I have no doubt. I mean, if you watch how the left did this with the cancel culture, okay, we have people on our side that would be all gung ho. Any lift that they got handed, any lift that they that came out with the official imprimatur stamp of the Department of Justice, here's the client list. I have no doubt how viciously irresponsible some people would be with that list, such a list, if they were ever given one. So for about 5 months now, I've had to push back on this bullshit that there was a list that was ever going to be released to the public. The fact that certain social media influencers took a lot of money to build that expectation, to neuter it, to grow it, to expand it. So that when Trump came back, they were ready to spring the trap. You better release that list or else. So, Gloria Allen won't be the other one. I mean, they're just at the point now, the only way they can get any traction, they can take this Trump Epstein narrative they're so desperate to keep going and to try to drive his popular support down. What's the only way they're going to be able to do that? Some prominent people are going to have to come out in the open and push that narrative forward. And yesterday, it was Gloria Allred. There will be more. And the more people start to see who was behind this client list bullshit, the more people are going to realize this was a psyop built on a real case. Yes, they took a real case being investigated, being prosecuted. They just haven't gone public with it yet. They took a real case and they manufactured a hoax. There's a client list they could give us, and the son of a bitches won't give it to us. Okay? And that's where things have stood for the last 5 months. It's getting to the point it's going to become increasingly obvious this was a psychological operation to try to damage Trump. And Gloria Allred is just the first one come out in the open. You're going to see some other putting them. Wow, this Epstein thing makes for strange bedfellows. Over here, you've got that asshole, Thomas Massey. And over here, you've got Gloria Allred. Wow, that's amazing. Not really. It's not really amazing if you understand what the uniparty is and who funds the uniparty and what it's used for. Because one part of the uniparty script is convincing you when they fight each other, it's real. Team Red, yay! Fighting Team Blue, boo! And we're fighting over the money while our treasury is being looted, and they're hiding that and covering up. They're really fighting over how to spend the money, they're really fighting over things. That's bullshit. They're not really fighting. That's only one half of it. The other half is when they manufacture bipartisanship. Team Red over here, we like this idea. And Team Blue over there, we like this idea too. Let's get together. Oh, hey, let's celebrate the bipartisanship. Beautiful, beautiful bipartisanship. And what are they doing right now? Well, certain people in the Yay Team Red, certain people in the Yay Team Blue, they're uniting under wonderful Epstein partisanship of trying to prove that Donald Trump was an Epstein client. Oh, it's such beautiful bipartisanship. You gotta love the bipartisanship, man. It's all fake and gay. So I'm thinking, anyway, I've been gone for 2.5 hours. I want to thank all 1,900 of you that are watching. Okay, this was the Friday edition. I'll be back on Monday. Who knows what kind of stuff will happen over the weekend? We'll get talked about on Monday. It's like if you drink Danger Coffee, I don't receive any compensation for this. Just for free plug. If you drink Danger Coffee, it's remineralized. It makes you feel awesome. And I love the tagline, Danger Coffee. You'll feel so good. Who knows what you might do? Anyway, thank you for watching. God bless you. I'll see you all on Monday.